I have hit that live button. I never know how long it's going to take for that live button to actually yield a live result. I probably should create some sort of intro, but I kind of like not doing it. Like there's a little bit of a, I like it when things feel kind of organic sometimes. So that's my excuse for not coming up with an intro to solve the awkward intro every time we go live. But I think it's fine. I think we're probably live now. I'm pretty sure we're live now, because we had people waiting and now there's no one waiting. So there you go. Makes perfect sense. But we should be live. Guys in the chat, let me know if you hear and see everything. If everything's looking and sounding okay. Hopefully it is. Hopefully. But anyway, for those who are new to the show, this is a Nintendo podcast we do every Sunday night around 9 p.m. Eastern, usually. And we talk about Nintendo things, usually the current events, the news that are coming. So, well, tonight we're going to be diving into some September Nintendo Direct speculation. We're also going to be talking about our early impressions for No More Heroes 3, and we're going to be theorizing and picking apart the latest trailer for Metroid Dread, along with a report as well. There's a lot of interesting things that have been coming out for both No More Heroes and Metroid. It's kind of an exciting time for both of those franchises. It's pretty good. I just got off playing No More Heroes 3 for the first time, actually. So I finished the first, chapter. Nice. And it was pretty awesome, honestly. It was pretty fantastic. Yeah. We'll get into it. We will talk about it. It will be great. For those in the chat, Brandon is back. WhataboutNodnarb? His channel is linked in the description below. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's good to be back. It's nice. When I'm away, when you're doing the podcast for so long, every single week, when you actually go away, you realize, oh man, I've been on for a while, and you start really wanting to be on. So I'm happy to be on again. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's been like a month or something. I don't know. I do not know, but
it's been a while.
Yeah. So last week we managed to. I put a goal randomly right before the show started that we would hit 100 concurrent viewers. We peaked at 122, so we nice. Smashed that goal. Currently we're at 30. We just started the show, but if you guys could like the stream, stay active in the chat, share out the stream, that would be greatly appreciated. If we could hit 100 again back to back, I'd be feeling pretty good about that. So if it's possible, let's do it. If not, well, it's still fine. We're still going to continue the show. But I'm just sort of thinking, what should we talk about first? DE Fox, a mod, thank you for modding, asks, can we talk about No More Heroes 3 last so I can avoid spoilers since I haven't played it yet? I will consider that for sure. Maybe we could talk about No More Heroes 3 last. I don't mind talking about it a little bit later. Yeah. Maybe we could open things up with Nintendo Direct speculation, and then we could then start talking about Metroid Dread, and then we'll talk about No More Heroes 3. I don't really mind that as an order. I think that'll work out fine. It is kind of how the title suggests, actually. So maybe that's fine. I wonder if I should change the title. Should I put Nintendo in the title? Does that matter? Maybe.
I don't know.
Potentially. I don't know. I don't know what to take out because I maxed out my characters. So it's kind of I don't know. Doesn't matter. It might matter, but oh well. Anyway, so maybe I should change it, but I don't know what I should change it to, so I don't know. Because I want people to know we're talking about all three topics. So it's kind of I could. I don't know. I don't know. I do not know. Anyway, let's check in with the chat, and then we'll start talking about a potential Nintendo Direct in September. So let's see here. The Best Cowboy, hello. Captain Dogawa, hello there. Jeremy Benz, hello. Your favorite part of the week, awesome. Should you get No More Heroes 3? I think maybe. Actually, because it's pretty good. I'll tell you that I played No More Heroes 1 not too long ago, and I felt like that game was a little repetitive, and it felt dated. Just coming off playing No More Heroes 3, without saying any spoilers, it is hectic, it is interesting, it's got some serious flavors, it's exciting, it's exhilarating, it's fast paced. There's lots of like, there's a lot of really interesting content told and shown in different ways. It's a roller coaster. I just did the first chapter, and I gotta tell you, it was very different, and I mean that in a very, very good way. Very good way. So while I may not have given you any specific details, you play No More Heroes 3, you're in for something that is going to be unique. You're in for something that's going to feel like you're getting some tasteful storytelling, but in a very unorthodox kind of way. And there's going to be some exhilarating action. There's going to be some pretty interesting visuals. And, I felt like the acting was pretty good too. Like, I feel like I'm in for like a pretty awesome action story game, and I think
nice
that this is certainly a very promising start to the game. Like, I could be getting overzealous here, I might be jumping the gun, but the way the game started, I could see this game being like definitely nominated for some pretty awesome awards for different game award shows towards the end of the year, because it was a pretty stellar beginning, and we'll see how it holds up throughout. But it was pretty strong. I'll just say that before we jump into that as an actual topic later into the discussion. It was definitely a really, really strong start to the game. So far so good.
Oh, yeah.
If you're on the fence, I would say go for it. Get No More Heroes 3. Silver, is Breath of the Wild 2 going to be in this? And by in this, do you mean the direct? I do not know.
God.
I do not know.
What a question.
Sure, Brandon, why don't you talk about it? Do you think we'll see Breath of the Wild 2 at all during the direct?
I'd say it's unlikely. I think the only reason we would see it is if it was somehow coming out earlier in the year, like not a holiday release, like maybe summer or something, then we might see it. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's coming out probably next holiday, and I doubt that they will show it again. I feel like there's going to be other things earlier in 2022 that they're going to want to show off, and they're going to probably hold this next Zelda game either for an early direct next year, or more likely, well, they might tease it, but more likely we'll get most of the information on next T3, I think.
It's tough because I think Nintendo and the Zelda team are very well aware that we want Zelda news and information.
Oh yeah.
And since Skyward Sword HD is now out, like, talking about Breath of the Wild 2 now wouldn't hurt anything. Like, I don't think there's any like clear negative for talking about Zelda now, but there's also no real need either. Like, they can
overshadow things that are closer.
I mean, that's something you could argue. I mean, they can still put in a little teaser. It just kind of
steals the front page of anything it's shown. So
yeah,
if they don't need to show it, then maybe they don't want to show it, so it's not just the dominant thing.
I can definitely see Breath of the Wild 2 getting some sort of reference at the Game Awards, like a quick little trailer there. But in terms of the direct, I just don't have a reason to expect it then, and that's mainly because I don't think Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out until the holiday as well. Now, if Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out, say, this March, right, if they want to surprise us and have it come out for March of 2022, then for sure Breath of the Wild 2 is going to have a big presence in a September Direct, like, for sure. But if it's not there, then that pretty much seals the deal. Breath of the Wild 2 is not coming out to close out the fiscal year. It's coming out later. And you and I both think it's feeling right now like a holiday game for next year. Yeah. Some people think it might not even make it out for next year. But
God.
Yeah, so you know, if you ask me questions throughout the discussion about Breath of the Wild 2, I'm gonna answer them. Like, if you want like speculate on what's going on, things like that, I'm super down for that. But in terms of like, will we get like Breath of the Wild 2 news in a Nintendo Direct this upcoming month? I do not think so. So
I'd say it's unwise to expect any Breath of the Wild 2 news during this supposed September Direct.
Yeah, I don't think so. Birdman's been playing No More Heroes 3, and he says it is freaking lit. I agree. Jeremy Benz, direct date predictions. Okay, let's come up with some predictions. So, when could we see a September Nintendo Direct? I think the September Nintendo Direct is likely to happen within the first 2 weeks of September. Why do I say that? Okay. Because if you look at every year during the Switch era, during September we have gone some sort of Nintendo Direct, and it's been within the first 2 weeks. Sometimes it even happens within the first few days. So potentially we even see it this upcoming week. I kind of hope not, just because I have certain things planned video-wise that I want to talk about before that Direct. But, you know, Nintendo's not going to wait for me, right? So there could totally be something even this week, potentially. But I'm going to guess a week after that. So the latest we've seen September Directs throughout the Switch era in September has been September 13th, which, you know, put in the second week. And that kind of makes sense, I think. Let's see here. Well, not even. September 13th would be going into the third week of the... It would be a part of the second full week. That would be a Monday. But I could see things happening in the first full week of September. So next week, this week we're already starting since Sunday. We're going to be starting September midway through. And I believe WarioWare... Maybe on the 9th, right? Because I believe WarioWare comes out on the 10th. So to get out a Direct right before the release of WarioWare, talk more about WarioWare, give it a little bit more of a marketing push there, that will push WarioWare sales right before. And this is also a few weeks before Metroid Dread, right? Metroid Dread comes out October 8th. They're going to want to give that a big push as well. So that's another reason sort of for there to be an expectation of there being a Direct this month. So yeah, I do like that 9th date. We have seen Nintendo do Direct sometimes on Wednesdays. So I would say 8th or 9th of September, that would be my best guess. But, you know, Nintendo could throw us for a loop and announce a Direct tomorrow or something. Or on Wednesday and happen. It could happen this week.
Could be on the 2nd.
Yeah. And, you know, just because the pattern has been that it's happened the first 2 weeks of September doesn't mean it's going to always be that way. Maybe we have to wait until late September, right? I'm guessing no, mainly because of WarioWare. I think they want to have that featured in a Direct before it releases. Yeah. So that's why, you know, I think before September 10th is a fairly good guess. And Brandon and I are kind of hovering between the 8th and the 9th right now. So around then, I think for sure. So I'm hoping not this week, just because I want to get out some videos, but we'll see what happens. When it happens, I will do my best to cover it, and I'm sure it's going to be great. But just kind of continue on the chat here. We're still talking about the Direct, by the way. It's just kind of like we're scratching the surface, really. Let's see here. If you guys at me, it's easier for me to see the question, by the way. Birdman, Zelda games get delays, but I do think it's coming next year for sure. So, let's talk a little bit about Zelda Delays. Why not? So there is a history of big Zelda games getting delays. So, you know, oftentimes we've seen Zelda games get a release year, and then Nintendo has to delay that. There's a history there. So if we go by that pattern, then that would lead one to believe, okay, well, Nintendo finally gave us a release year for Breath of the Wild 2, so based off previous big Zelda games, that means it's coming out later.
Right.
But the thing is, typically, when a company says it's coming out this year, that's because they think it's coming out that year. They're not just saying that just to say it. They're saying that because they believe that's when it's coming. Let's keep in mind, they announced the development of this game back in 2019. They waited 2 whole years before they gave us another update on this game.
Yep.
And let's also keep in mind, we have hard confirmations from Eiji Aonuma, the series producer, from late 2017 that they already started development on the next big Zelda game. That big Zelda game is a sequel to Breath of the Wild. So we know they've been working on this since 2017. And from the footage, it's very clear that this is still using some approximation of the Breath of the Wild engine. Obviously, they've probably tinkered with it and worked on it, but they've already had that base there.
Some kind of evolved version.
Exactly. So they've been working on it for a while. Not to mention, it's taking place in the same location. So while they're probably adding new areas and remixing things and changing things around, it's still in the same location. So that also expedites, that speeds up development even more so. So with all of these things in mind, and the fact that it's a sequel, I think when they tell us an actual release year, I actually feel like that is it's a more confident statement than previous Zelda games where they're starting entirely from scratch, entirely new art style, entirely new engine, and they're trying out a bunch of entirely new concepts. They know what concepts they want. Like but keep in mind the latest trailer we saw showed us actual gameplay with different mechanics involved. Like it wasn't just story stuff, or not even that. With the initial trailers for most Zelda games, it's not even story, it's not mechanics necessarily, it's just like a tech demo. We didn't see a tech demo. Like there's a lot more to these trailers than just that. We already know about the story, we already know about gameplay mechanics. Obviously, we know surface level things because they haven't divulged that much, but they clearly have a lot in mind already. They clearly know what they're doing, where they're headed, the direction is very clear. So when I see them say that we're aiming for a 2022 release, I think they're saying that at this stage of the game, this many years into development, because they are confident that that's when they're going to hit it. That said,
I think so. They're being a lot more keeping things confidential for this one for the longest time. They're being a lot more safe with it. So for them to actually give a release date is big, because they never did give us one back in 2019, and they really haven't shown a lot. Like they didn't necessarily have to give a release date then if they weren't confident in it. If they didn't have a release date they thought that they could hit. With how careful they've been, how little they've shown, they didn't necessarily even have to give us a release here. But I think it's because that, as you said, that they think that they can hit it. I think it's probably going to come out next year. I don't really have too much doubt that they'll hit the year goal. And it would come out 2022. And this next holiday, we'll be playing Breath of the Wild 2. I think that's just what it's going to be. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. But, it is possible it could be delayed.
It is possible.
Yeah, the fact that now I have to go. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember the exact wording, but it was something along the lines of, "We are aiming or targeting a 2022 release." When they say that, there is an inherent lack of confidence in the statement, and I do think that is because they are trying to be cautious. They are trying to temper expectations, and there is a chance that the game doesn't make it out next year. Absolutely. Especially when you factor in the pandemic. Although I would argue that if it wasn't for the pandemic, the game would be coming out at the latest this year. But it's one of those things that we may never know for sure, right? Because that's another reality that did not occur. But
it would be interesting to get that knowledge, get the behind the scenes on what happened. You may never know. There
was that legal document that showed that Microsoft was anticipating Metroid Prime 4, Bayonetta 3, and Breath of the Wild 2 all to come out last year or something like that.
Really?
Yeah. So that, I think that was wrong. I don't know. There's different considerations with that. Maybe they were just preparing themselves for the worst case scenario for themselves, right? But it's just we don't know. We don't know. But anyway, I do think it's healthy to temper your expectations and be prepared for a potential delay. If I was a betting man, and I guess I am because I've done a few bets on the channel already, I'll say that Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out by the end of next year, assuming
I agree.
things don't get derailed significantly with any other sort of crazy pandemics. I mean, there are some of those variants going out there. I mean, we're not really out of the woods. So there are those things involved that has certainly been impacting things and will continue to impact things. But
Right.
I'm gonna stick on to the optimistic side and say that we've sort of figured out how to get work done even with these conditions, and work will continue to progress at a rate that they've already understood, which is why they said 2022. So yeah, I think Breath of the Wild 2 will make it out by the end of the next year, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Super Chris, I'm also excited for Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. Yeah, I'm actually really feeling Banana Mania. That game, oh man, that game, they're continually announcing more and more little things, more little side modes and content, additional characters. Visually, it really sticks out. It's the arguably the three best games in the series all together, remastered beautifully. I'm very excited. I was excited for this just because it was looking like a clean remaster of the first three games, but it's having all this additional extra content in there as well. Man, and we already know there's some DLC. They could even potentially offer like more maps as DLC down the road potentially. Like, this is, for all intents and purposes, a brand new Monkey Ball game, even though it's a remaster collection. But you get my point. Like, there's a lot of new content here. There's a lot of work being put into this. So I'm actually very excited for it. I love Monkey Ball. And I am pumped for this. It's one of my, like, yeah, I gotta get it. I'm gonna get it.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I haven't played Monkey Ball since I was a child. Very young. Small child. Probably before I was 10. And I love Monkey Ball. I played some other forms of Monkey Ball, like at an arcade or something. Or they'll have like some just like side mini games or one small little mode or something. But it's been a long time since I've played a real full-fledged Monkey Ball, and I'm super excited for this.
Yeah.
What day does it come out again?
My brain wants to say September. I gotta look it up.
I'm not sure.
October 1st.
October 1st. Okay.
Wow. That's not too long from now. That's a week before Metroid Dread.
I'll have to pick it up when I get my Switch OLED and Metroid Dread.
Yeah, play it on that Switch OLED for right. Yeah, that'll be great. So I see some interesting questions here. Hello boy, Goomba for Smash. What if Goomba would be on the level of Piranha Plant potentially? But Jeremy Bins on that note also asked, last Smash DLC fighter. And then Paul Dune also added me and said, if we get a Saturn Direct, who do you think we'll get in Smash? So who we getting for Smash? That's one of the expectations. I do think we're gonna see the final Smash character for Fires Pass Volume 2 announced during this Direct. Like, this is the last major Direct for the year. The Smash DLC is supposed to come out all by the end of the year. And historically, we pretty much always see Smash characters announced during major directs. If not then the Game Awards. Conceivably, we could wait till the Game Awards. Conceivably. But considering that we just got one at E3, yes, I think a few months later, timing-wise, it makes sense for it to happen in September. I think that kind of checks out. Like, maybe the character doesn't come out till October, potentially, but I think they make that announcement in this Direct. Now, it also could still happen in September. I'm not saying the character won't come out by September. I'm just simply saying there is a little bit of a window there. But yeah, I expect the character to be announced in the September Direct. I have a few ideas. They're probably wrong. But I do really like the idea of Master Chief, if there's going to be a third-party character.
Yes.
It makes sense, especially because I could tie into a potential Nintendo-Microsoft collaboration. Maybe Master Chief Collection is coming to Switch, and that's announced then. The rumor is that we would see an announcement around this fall, so the September Direct seems to be kind of like that right timing for that. But I also gotta tell you, with Metroid Dread coming out early October, with the big marketing push Nintendo's doing for Metroid, And this recent trailer that showcases the Chozo Warrior, I'm kind of thinking, like, what if there's another character from Metroid Dread that is added as a Smash character to really hype up the game even more so, and it comes out just a few weeks before Metroid Dread, like just another little push, you know, because they've been doing so much to push Metroid Dread, like just give it that one more final push.
Sure.
And that Chozo Warrior, like, there are so many moveset potential options there. Like, they can do some crazy stuff with that. And the way the trailers, I know this is not technically the Metroid Dread topic yet, so we'll get back to this as well. But with with most pod discussions, these topics have overlap. But this character clearly is being featured very prominently. Like, they showed it in the title screen, like, and it's a big deal.
Yeah.
This character is a big deal. And is super strong. They are touting this character as the most powerful adversary Samus has had yet. How can you... certainly, like, you know, if you're just thinking about potential Metroid characters to put in there, all of a sudden Chozo Warrior is the top of the list. Like, it's beyond the Emmy. The Emmy would have been interesting.
Man.
Emmy would have been interesting. Could have had, like, some Piranha Plat vibes, like, but still, like, that sci-fi scary aspect as well. But with this Chozo Warrior that actually seems to have, like, a story behind this character and is very powerful and is a true adversary to Samus, that changes things, right? So I think there's a good chance. Like, I mean,
that would be epic.
Again, we're pretty much always wrong about Smash characters. I mean, not always wrong. I technically predicted Pyra, although I said it would be with Rex, but you know.
It's so many.
And then Banjo we predicted as well. Like, we've gotten some predictions right, but there's a lot that we don't get right. So it's tough. It feels like there's a chance that it could be a Metroid character, and I think timing wise, like if they really want to go for the big marketing thing, this would be it. And I think the Chozo Warrior would go over a lot better than Byleth did. People were foaming out of the mouth when Byleth was announced. I like Byleth, just for the record. I think the character is great. It's one of my favorite characters in the game. But I also understand that, like, in terms of fan excitement, people would have preferred, like, Edelgard or Dimitri or Cloud instead, like, not a character. It's like a combination of all of them.
Yeah.
But by doing a combination of all of them,
people would have preferred a character that was not Fire Emblem.
What I would have preferred is, I'm okay with what they did, and I like that they have, like, the male and female alts, and then the color alts kind of make it look like them. But what if, like, they just made those alts them? You know, kind of like what they did with Hero.
Yeah.
That would have been the best case scenario, in my opinion. But anyway, Byleth is a little bit different because it came out a few months after the release for Fire Emblem Three Houses, but it was clearly planned. In this case, we're talking about them releasing a character in anticipation of the game, which would be different. But then Metroid Dread's been planned for a while. This has been worked for years, so it's not like they wouldn't have been able to do this. Heck, Dread's been in development, has been canceled twice. Like, they've had, like, a lot of the ideas for Dread have been around for years, over a decade, like 15 years or something. So they totally could have been well prepared to present some sort of concept to Sakurai early on. I mean, Dread's at least been in development with the current team since 2017, since they finished Samus Returns, at least. Maybe a few months after that.
It would be epic if, along with the Chozo Warrior, they also have one new skin for Samus, and it's her new suit. That'd be epic.
Yeah. And, you know, if they want to, like...
I don't think that's gonna happen, by the way, guys, so don't get, like, your hopes up. But...
So, I mean, it does, but, you know, with that, well, I like that you brought that up, though, because it is going to be the last character, right? And when they announce this character, it's probably going to be a trailer, and then a few weeks later, we'll get the Sakurai Presents. And the Sakurai Presents, they'll fully feature the character, whatever that character may be, and then he'll announce whatever final updates he has for the game, probably. It'll be the final Smash update. Like, they'll probably still, you know, they'll manage the game online and do the occasional patches and such, but for the most part, the expectation here is that this is going to be the final major update for the game. So, you know, whatever final Mii costumes, if there's a final secret mode, if they're going to add in a final extra stage or something, this is the time that they're going to announce that. Not the direct, the Sakurai Presents. So if, for example, we are to get an additional skin for Samus, it doesn't necessarily have to be shown off during the direct. It could be shown off in the Sakurai Presents. And to your Brandon's point, we're not saying, like, for sure it's happening. It's kind of more of a wish. But the point is that if there is going to be any sort of, like, interesting final little addition of content that's going to be provided or offered, this Sakurai Presents, this presumed final one, is where we can maybe get that information. So maybe Sakurai will announce, okay, so I'm taking a step back now. This is the final character we're going to be adding, but over the next couple of years or so, maybe we'll be adding a few alternate costumes. And then here's a couple of the first ones. One of them includes like maybe the Dread Samus suit in there. Like that would be interesting, and it would be a nice way to sort of maintain the Smash hype a little bit instead of characters. It's all costumes, and every direct or so maybe they announce another one or two. That would be a neat little way to sort of continue the Smash hype. And you know, I think I'd be. It doesn't take that much work. Sakurai wouldn't really have to be that involved, if at all, with that.
Yeah.
I would love it. I would be so down for that. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but it's an idea.
Yeah, I would be super hyped for that. I would love it if they did a low poly set, like just a low poly DLC, which I could switch it on, and every character has an N64 type.
Oh, that'd be so
model.
Cool. Yeah, it'd be so cool. I would love that.
Even one of like every character.
Like they did it for new ones too, so you can see how they would hypothetically have looked back in the day. Yeah, that would be super, super cool. It's hard to make. They can't make that really an expectation, right? But it's one of those things that like they conceivably could do. It wouldn't require. I'm not saying it wouldn't take work, but you know, it's not like developing a whole new character or anything like that. It's certainly far easier. Yeah. But will they? I don't know. Maybe if you have to, I would pay for it. Okay.
I would pay.
Yeah, I will give more money for these alternate costumes. I'm not saying for free. Like
I'll pay $5.
Yeah, it can't be as much as a full-on character pack, but yeah, for sure.
$5 or $10.
Now, if it's an all costume for every single character in the game, which is approaching, I don't even know the number anymore. It's over 80 or something like that. Like, I would probably pay $30 for every single all costume. Like, it's a lot of all costumes there. It's less than. I mean, you can do the math.
Yeah, true. There's like 70, 80.
Yeah.
90,
the value there is multiple costumes per dollar. So, I'd be down for that.
I'd pay like $30.
Yeah, so I mean, but you know, kind of going back though, a Metroid character or Master Chief are kind of characters that are hovering my mind. A couple others that I think are worth mentioning are the Crash Bandicoots, Rayman. In my opinion, Rayman makes a lot of sense just in terms of legacy. Like, I feel like that would put a nice, pretty little ribbon or bow on Smash Ultimate if they were to have ribbon were to be the final character.
Please have Ubisoft character.
It would be some sort of Ubisoft character. I feel like would make sense because of the relationship between Nintendo and Ubisoft.
Yeah, you'd think that they would have a character.
I mean, we did Nate from Nintendo Prime and I. We were on his show last Wednesday. He was talking about putting in the guy from Assassin's Creed. I disagreed because I was like, well, we just recently got a Mii costume, so I don't know. But you know, it maybe right that Mii costumes aren't like a hard deconfirmation. So maybe that.
But if you just got one, like,
watch it be a character from Beyond Good and Evil, like Jade or something, and then, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, Beyond Good and Evil here, it's coming to Switch too, and here's a new trailer," because we haven't gotten one in a long time. Like that'd be crazy.
It'd be insane.
That would be really cool. But I think
the game is never coming out.
I don't know.
The game's probably canceled and restarted, and
potentially.
3 times over.
Yeah, I think that this whatever character it is, we haven't mentioned it. Like it's gonna be, but there are some people are gonna really love it, and a lot of people are gonna be like okay with it, and some people are gonna hate it. Like that's pretty much how every character is.
Honestly, at this point, I just want to know what it is, and I just want. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of getting a little tired of the Smash cycle. It's been going on for so long that I'm just kind of like, I just want to know what it is, and then I want to be, I'm good. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with what we got, and it's, you know, I just feel like there's a good chance that this character is gonna be somebody who doesn't super like knock my socks off, so. I'm not really like all too worried about it. But if it is somebody awesome, then great. But I'm just kind of like, we'll see. If it disappoints me or not.
We'll see.
Not that there's just been so many good ones already, though, that it's okay.
I'm
Even if
like,
it's bad, if
we've
it's
been
one I
over
don't
this.
care about,
I'm satisfied.
good. Yeah.
Like all the characters I want to smash are fine. Like I'm certainly curious, right? I'm always curious, but I don't need it to be any particular character. I think they've done a great job already. They've appealed to a lot of different people. So whatever it is, it's gonna be interesting. But let's continue on with the chat here. I know we are touching on a lot of the direct speculation stuff, so I think it's fine. But I'm just gonna kind of continue with the chat here. DE Fox added me. Speaking, I don't even want Wind Waker HD or Twilight Princess HD on Switch anymore because I've already dumped them from their game disc and I'm legally emulating them on my PC. I see. Well, you know, everyone can. Yeah. You do you. 10-2 knock. Do you think Challenger Pack 11 will be revealed in the September Direct? I personally doubt it, but a lot of people seem to think that's when. Well, that's literally we're talking about this entire time. I realized timing. You probably put that out before we talked about it. But yeah, I do think that's when. But we mentioned earlier that potentially they may be the same for the Game Awards. But I personally feel like it's too long of a window to wait since E3. But you know, odd. Maybe they want to wait that long. Maybe.
Seems like a lot of extra time when we've been getting characters pretty consistently.
Right. It would certainly throw off the pattern a little bit.
Yeah, it'd be odd.
But, you know, it may depend. The timing of things and what they want to push or market with it, that may matter, depending what that character is and what games are available at one point. So there are different things at hand here, but based off previous the pattern, I would say most likely we're getting it announced in this as a potential September Direct. And for the record, guys, the Direct is not confirmed. It's just the assumption because every September during the entire Switch era, even last year during the pandemic, we had a whole bunch of Nintendo news. We got the Mario Anniversary Direct, and we got Age of Calamity announced and things like that. And I think Monster Hunter Rise is also announced in September. Like September was the month even in 2020. Even though we didn't have a general direct. And every other year we've had a general direct, a major direct in September. This time around, timing-wise it works out because we need more information for WarioWare. They probably want to give Metroid Dread another push. So, yes, I think September is the time to get that direct. Moving on here, the chat did a little bit of a jump. Let's see. Aris Moore. Hey, Andres. For the Nintendo Direct, new Donkey Kong, Mario Kart 9, the latest on Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, Game Boy Advance SP comes to Switch Online service. Could we get any of those things? I think there's a good chance we don't see anything Pokemon mentioned during a Direct just because Pokemon Company didn't feel the need to mention anything Pokemon during the E3 presentation, and we just got the Pokemon Presents like a week or so ago, so it doesn't feel like there's a strong need to mention it during the Direct. Yeah, they could just do their own info dumps on their social media. There's not a need. Though, if we exclude this year, whenever there has been like some sort of like big E3 Direct, there is like Pokemon information there, but usually the Pokemon major new information comes out before, but they have a mention during the E3, and then there's Treehouse footage for more. So I'm not saying it's out of the question. It just seems like that we might not get the Pokemon news during the Direct, but we're going to be getting more news for Pokemon in the coming weeks leading up to the release for Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and then Legends Arceus as well. Legends Arceus might have more news because they might have more new content, new Pokemon to show us as we get closer to that release in January. As for Donkey Kong and
there's more that they can show.
Yeah. As for Donkey Kong and Mario Kart, Donkey Kong I for sure think is coming out next year. Mario Kart 9, I have no idea. I am starting to lean more towards there being some sort of Mario Kart update, be it a new game or some sort of special expansion before the end of the Switch era. If we're really like talking about, I don't know, like I think it's tough. Let's say the next Switch comes out holiday 2023, then I think Mario Kart 9 is a launch title for it. If the next Switch is like beyond that, then I think we're gonna have to get a Mario Kart before the Switch era ends. So it kind of depends on the timing of things there, but potentially we could see an announcement for either game in a Direct during this month. I don't think it's Mario Kart, but you know, if there's gonna be like a Mario Kart expansion beforehand, then maybe. Right, so because they are going to probably announce like a game or two for next year, during the direct, I think. So
I
both are
definitely
options.
could see Donkey Kong being there. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
like to for sure finally see what that's all about. And it seems like a title that could come out like spring or summer next year, so they could definitely talk about it in the September direct. I think that'd be good. I was hoping to see it at E3, so yeah, it'd be nice to see it this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. There's certainly other options. Like, is there a game in particular, Brandon, that you would like to see or think could be announced during this direct?
It's a good question. Not in particular.
Well-
Back to me on that, and I'll think of something probably.
Yeah, that's fine. Donkey Kong, I think, is an option. Another option, I think, is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. We've seen that rumor. We talked about it last week. We made to put a video out as well. Like, I do think that is a strong possibility for a game that could be announced during the direct. This doesn't have to be during the direct, but that is one of the strong candidates for sure. During Nate's podcast, we talked about potentially a Resident Evil game. There's been some rumors for that. Like, that's a possibility as well. I mean, Capcom's been doing well on the Switch, so maybe, you know, they're going to use that awesome re-engine and do something special with Resident Evil on Switch. They did such a great job with Monster Hunter Rise.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we have to wait a little bit longer for that to come out, but, you know, that is an option that could potentially be announced as well. Beyond that, I mean, in terms of a new announcements of games that have been announced already, Donkey Kong and Xenoblade 3 are the ones that come to mind to me. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's obviously more options, but those are the ones I'm sort of thinking. Maybe the next Fire Emblem game. That's another one.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also there's Kirby. Can't forget Kirby. I think potentially they could announce that Kirby game as well. So those are all games I could see maybe being announced. Not all of them will be announced during the direct. Maybe one, maybe two of them, or another one we haven't mentioned yet. But something like
something we already know about that they'll definitely talk about is Splatoon. I definitely imagine we'll see more of Splatoon 3.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you kind of took out like my big thing. Like that I think there's a good chance that is like the big focus of the direct, Splatoon 3, or it's at least going to get a feature. Because I'm thinking Splatoon 3 is coming out. Maybe even if I think it potentially could be the fiscal year ending game, March 2022. Yeah. It may not be. It may come out a little bit later, closer to summer. But I think this September Direct is a good time to start talking about it. It was not shown off at E3 at all, so I think this is the time to start talking about it. Yeah, and potentially they even announce like a test fire or something like that, and it would be something that only Nintendo Online members could access, which would work out timing-wise, because guess what? September is usually when people renew their subscriptions for Nintendo Online, because that's when it launched, but when it did launch. True. And they may announce some new content for Nintendo Online and a few other things to keep people engaged, right? So we're expecting the final Smash update, right? So potentially something there. That we mentioned Kirby. There could be a Kirby eShop game released as well. We just talked about mentioned Splatoon 3, obviously. There could be a test fire that benefits people for that. Also, going back to what Aris Moore said, potentially we do get some sort of legacy content on Nintendo Online for Game Boy games or Game Boy Advance. I think we might. I think that they will want Zero Mission, Fusion, and everything. They want all. I think they're gonna want all the games leading up to Metroid Dread to be available on the online. I would hope. That's kind of like my hope and dream there. Yeah, I mean, timing-wise, it makes sense to get out the Metroid Game Boy games before Dread comes out in October, and that could be a part of their marketing there. So there's a lot of different angles and connections that can be made here, right? There's certainly a lot of options. But let me kind of continue with the chat here. You guys are doing a great job of presenting questions that are sort of like bringing out all of our speculation and thoughts on the direct, so it's great. Hello Boy asks, for the people saying graphics don't matter, would you accept if Super Mario 64 came out today with its current graphics? What? No. It's all based off expectation, right? Like if it's an indie game that's trying to look retro intentionally, then it is what it is. That's exactly what I was thinking. But if Nintendo were to release Super Mario Odyssey 2 and it looks like Mario 64, we'd be like,
No.
what's going on? This is not 60 frames per second. This is not widescreen. This is not high resolution. The camera is janky. Like,
Yeah.
they all those things I just mentioned to kind of impact your experience of the gameplay, right?
Gameplay. Everything
So,
impacts gameplay. Like immersion as well is a big part of everything.
Yeah.
Even
Graphics are
the entire
important.
experience.
Performance too,
Yeah.
but they tend to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Immersion, to your point, like there's a lot of things that can be done within visuals that can bring you in more so. Absolutely. So, yeah, it depends on what it is, but in general, yeah, no, can't look like an N64 game. That was bad. N64, like the thing about that era is because that was like the beginning of like 3D like console gaming, and it was a technology that was still sort of, developers were still figuring things out on how to do it. Textures were blurry
3D was
messes.
very much in infancy.
Yeah, you could argue that was like the generation that's probably aged the most poorly, because if you go 8-bit and 16-bit like sprite games, you can play them now and be like, hey, this is what it is, it works. And then if you go to the early 2000s, the games then, while they don't look as good as games now, you can tell what's going on. But you go back to like the mid 90s and like people had triangles for boobs. Like it was.
Yeah, it's sometimes unintelligible what things are supposed to be.
And textures were so muddy sometimes you couldn't make out what they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the N64 had a very blurry look to it. It had like a blur filter. It's actually certain like HDMI converters and different things that you can get for the N64 that can de-blur the image, and it makes it look a lot cleaner. But the N64 had at least it had anti-aliasing hardware, and that was a big deal actually back in the day, because even a lot of PCs didn't have anti-aliasing.
Yeah.
Texture smoothing and things.
Yeah. I see Solo here suggesting Chozo Warrior for Smash. We talked about it earlier. Yeah,
we
Chozo Warrior for Smash. Why not? It kind of fits. Tigger, Mario Strikers 3 announcement. So Mario Strikers 3, I think Next Level Games would probably be the developer for that because they made the previous ones. They recently got bought out entirely by Nintendo, so now they're a straight up exclusive Nintendo developer. They kind of already were, but now they are officially like owned by Nintendo. They're coming off Luigi's Mansion 3 from 2019, so conceivably we could see an announcement for the next Level games in a September Direct, because I think they announced Luigi's Mansion 3 in September of 2018 in a September 2018 Direct. So 3 years later to make another game, that's not crazy. I think conceivably we could see an announcement for Mario Strikers 3. Yeah, although with sports games, I could see that getting announced like early next year and coming out just a few months later. Like they don't necessarily need to announce something like that far in advance.
They don't.
But Mario Strikers, I think, does have a certain mystique to it or allure to it that I think would really hype people up. So it would be a nice. I'd be very excited if they were to announce it, but I also feel like that's something they could probably save for early next year if Mario Strikers 3 is indeed what Next Level Games is working on. So it's not out of the question, but I would say that if it doesn't get announced this September, I would say that doesn't mean it could still happen next year. Is my main point with that. But also,
I'd be very excited if there was a Strikers 3.
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled for Next Level Games' next project, whatever that is, because it could be Mario Strikers 3, but it could be something else that probably also is really awesome. Moving on with the chat here. Let's see. Oh, I got a super chat from Taker610. Thank you very much, Taker. Any Metro reports announced at Next Direct? Well, Brandon kind of touched on it already. If there's some legacy content announced, potentially the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance Metroid games. Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid Fusion specifically for Game Boy Advance are the ones we're kind of like hoping get brought over. Because we can already play Metroid. We can already play Metroid and Super Metroid on Nintendo Online. We're just missing.
We need Metroid 2.
Yeah,
well.
Metroid 2. Yeah, they could give us the original Metroid 2 from Game Boy. Be really cool if they were to port over Samus Returns, but that's a 3DS game, so that's a little trickier.
Yeah.
That would require changing around things because it's 2 screens. So
I would be really interested in that because I never got to play it.
Samus Returns is good, but at this point, though, I feel like if you're gonna put Samus Returns, I don't know because there's not like a dedicated like 3DS emulation on the Switch yet, and there may never be. The only way I can see them doing Samus Returns is by it being some sort of remaster or remake, and at that point, you don't do that this close to the release of Metroid Dread.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, you don't.
So, I mean, if it happens, it would be down the road. But maybe the
just
original.
Give us the original.
Yeah, we could get the original. So that way you still have technically Metroids 1 through 4 available on Nintendo Online. Yeah. I think there's a good chance of that happening.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Some more, but BanjoKazooie for Switch. I have my eyes peeled from some sort of Microsoft Nintendo collaboration, and it could be something like that, like a rare replay or something would be great.
We heard earlier in the year that something was supposed to happen in the fall. Yeah.
Now the thing is, rare replay probably wouldn't incite that much crazy sales. So while I would love that, I feel like it could happen, but it probably wouldn't be the only thing that would be in the works. I
think rare replay would be pretty big.
Well, BanjoKazooie apparently didn't sell that well in Smash, right? So like, it's kind of like
really,
yeah. So I don't know. Not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying that probably wouldn't be like the big thing. I want it to be the big. For me, it would be a big thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
For a certain subset of people, it is a big thing.
Yeah. Let's see here. Q Turtle Atomy. I'm really hoping for Game Boy Advance games to come to Switch and Switch Online too, and it makes sense for Dread, but they are also remaking Game Boy Advance games as seen with Advance Wars Reboot Camp, so it's pretty sus, not gonna lie. That is an interesting point. Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp is on the way, so then why, if they go ahead and bring back like Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, like wouldn't that kind of get in the way?
No, there's plenty
Depends.
of other ones.
They don't have to bring back those. They don't have to bring back Advance Wars. Can we think of? Are there any sort of remakes or remasters that are also on Nintendo Online? Their originals on Switch. I think there probably are. I'm having trouble thinking of them now.
Yeah, Link's Awakening.
Is Link's Awakening's a Game Boy game though?
Yeah. So it would be. I thought we were just looking for Game Boy.
Oh no, I meant like I meant like Nintendo and Super Nintendo. That are of games that are already available there.
I don't know, man. Let's think.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting point. I don't think it. I don't think that takes away from it necessarily.
No,
but,
I don't think that has anything.
But you know.
But some people still might want the original versions of something.
Right. Like we're talking about Metroid 2, right? When there's a Samus Returns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Zero Mission when we already have the original version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see here. Q-Turtle. Isn't Metopia originally a 3DS game, and Dread might be built using somewhat of the same engine?
Yes. No. What?
I don't understand that.
Read that again.
Metopia, the remaster remake, was developed by Grezzo.
Yeah.
Metroid has not been touched by Grezzo. Yeah, Grezzo has handled a lot of the Zelda stuff.
I don't think Dread has anything to do with the 3DS necessarily. Like maybe the engine that they use is based off. I doubt that it is, because I doubt that they would have had time to have built their own like added on to that 3DS engine
Yeah.
enough to make it into what Metroid Dread is doing.
To be just
and
so
the
just so
time
we're in
span
it.
that they've done, that
Mhm.
would take like 2 years on its own. They've only been developing it for like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So
And just so we're clear, Mercury Steam is a Spanish developer that made Samus Returns, and now Mercury Steam and elements of Nintendo are working together on Metroid Dread. Grezzo, they're just two entirely like separate development teams. I haven't heard anything about what engine they're using, but I think they're very different. But I do see that Taker here offered another super chat. Thank you very much. And Taker says, is Miitopia still only a 3DS port? I wouldn't call it a port. That's definitely like a remaster.
They remade all the art.
Yeah. It's along the lines of Definitive Edition for Xenoblade. Like it blurs the lines between remaster and remake. They redid a lot for that, for sure, and added new stuff. So I would definitely say it's a quality whatever it is, remaster make, but it's some elements of it have currently carried over. It's not fully ground up, but there's a lot of it that's been redone.
Yeah.
Let's see.
That's such a strange question.
It's interesting. But yeah, Brandon, do you have any other ideas for a game that could be announced during the Direct?
No, to be honest, I don't. No, I think we covered a lot of different options. I'm not thinking of anything.
Okay.
I'm sure there are other options that I'm just not thinking of.
So for me, in terms of like just overall expectations of the Direct, I don't know if there's any other expectations you have. Feel free to bring them up. But like I'm thinking, Smash Character. We talked about that earlier. There's a few different options for that. But I think Splatoon 3 is going to get a big focus. Metroid Dread will have a focus. WarioWare will have a focus. I think at least one big Nintendo game will be announced during this Direct that'll be coming out next year. I also think we'll learn about what will be coming out this March and potentially February. That could be Splatoon 3, could be something else. In terms of the games that maybe could be announced, maybe Donkey Kong, maybe Xenoblade 3. Those are options. In terms of third-party stuff, I actually really like the idea of the Resident Evil game being announced. I don't know if that happens on Direct, but it's certainly a consideration. I do actually buy into the rumor that I think was reported by Polygon that there is a Grand Theft Auto Remastered Trilogy in the works that's going to come out digitally.
Yes.
I can see that getting announced during the Direct, actually. It's coming out from all the different platforms, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets announced during this Direct and then everywhere else is announced the same day. I could see that
will
happening.
compete against the next-gen GTA 5 versions for series consoles and PS5. So Switch will have something Grand Theft Auto to compete with it.
According to rumor, it's coming to all platforms. It's coming out this year.
Still.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll do really well on Switch.
We'll have something.
Yeah, I think it'll do really well on Switch. So those are kind of like my expectations there. I would love to see something Zelda mentioned. I don't know what that would be. I think the best case scenario kind of goes back to our discussion in terms of what should we expect from the next Zelda announcement. Maybe Minish Cap in Nintendo Online. Like maybe we do get those Game Boy Advance games. And to the point we talked about earlier, like maybe some games will make it over like Advance Wars. Like that's fine, but not every game has to be brought over immediately. In case it does get in the way of, say, for example, something like Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. Maybe they bring that over a couple of years from now or a year from now later on. We could still get other awesome things like Zero Mission, like a Mario Kart, like a Super Mario Bros. 3, or like not 3, but they had a special version on Game Boy Advance.
It could definitely be that we're like, man, why aren't they adding Oracle of Ages and Seasons to the Switch Online? And then all of a sudden there's remakes.
Yeah,
could also be that.
Potentially,
they could just not put them on.
I would be hyped for a Minish Cap remake, but
yes, it would be such a beautiful.
I mean, I honestly,
they could do something really great with that.
Minish Cap is beautiful as is, so just to play that with the upscale to HD on Nintendo Switch Online would be nice. So
Yeah, actually being
yeah.
able to play it in 1080p, see those real sharp pixels would be nice.
Yeah, I think it would look really clean. So I'd be fine with that. So they don't even have to do that much work for it, but that would be all really nice to see. And I think that it all kind of comes together because we are going to have to see some sort of Nintendo Online update. And again, with the Splatoon 3 stuff, I am thinking maybe we see a test fire announced to keep those Nintendo Online members engaged. Those are sort of my expectations right now. I'm sure some things will change. I'll probably put out like an official direct predictions video a little bit later, assuming the direct doesn't happen like tomorrow or something. Yeah, those are pretty much my expectations. Do you have anything, Brandon? Anything more from what we've already discussed?
Honestly, I don't. I don't know. Yeah, I think that they could have something that surprises us, but I'm not sure what it is. So I think, we have all these predictions and we have all these theories, but also keep an eye out maybe for a wild card. There could definitely be a wild card.
Yeah, whatever that may be. It could be what we talked about, like some sort of awesome Nintendo announcement, but it could be something third party too. There could be some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. Shout out to ASAP Bro. Hello there. But let's transition to talking about Metroid Dread now. We actually, Lewis, we did mention Fire Emblem. Potentially that could be one of the games that is announced. We did mention that. But yeah, let's transition to Metroid Dread. That trailer, man, that was
man.
It was crazy.
Insane.
It was crazy. Crazy that it had Kraid. So
yeah,
that I think is huge. Seeing Kraid, dude, like Kraid just looked epic. Like
it looked so good.
For
the modeling,
years,
the effects, all the particle effects from the fire and things. The super nice modeling on Kraid and the lighting. It looked so good.
Yeah,
is it just
really
me
good.
or does the game look better than when they initially showed it? I feel like it looks more polished.
It could be that. It could be just showing more of it off. But I really like the variety of environments they showed off in the trailer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now the thing is, and you kind of alluded to it because when I DM'd you earlier, they showed off a lot. And there has been a fair bit of discussion that maybe Nintendo is showing off too much of Metroid Dread, spoiling the game. I have not cared, personally. I didn't even really think about it until I saw the discussion. I was just excited for everything I was seeing. And I think part of the reason people are upset is because if you look at some of the stuff they showed off, you can tell that it's pretty late game. Because you see how many energy tanks and missiles that Samus has, and you're like, well, that looks like late game. And they're like, so why are they showing us stuff late game? Like, if all, I would prefer if everything they show is kind of early game.
I would too.
But, I mean, as long as there's still a lot of surprises, I'm okay. Right? And I'm assuming there is. Like, excuse me. I'm assuming that everything they showed is still sort of scratching the surface. Now, that may not be the case. They might have given us a pretty good sort of showcase of what Samus's abilities and powers are. I have to think there'll be some surprises, but we probably know the majority of what Samus can do in this game. I think there's
still a lot more. I think there's still some secrets. There's definitely a lot more story elements. Like, sure, they showed off a new character, with the Chozo Warrior. They showed off some stuff there, but there's still a lot of things we just don't understand about exactly why they're there, what they're doing. All we know is that they fight. It's okay. So what do we get spoiled? That there is a bad guy and what they look like? We already technically saw them because we've seen the Chozo already. We knew that they were there. So this didn't really spoil too much, I guess. I guess Kraid would be the bigger spoiler. Yeah, I guess in hindsight, looking back on what they actually showed, it was really cool, which kind of makes you think at first that there's a lot of spoilers, but if you really think about it, like we don't know that much more than we did before. It was just a really, really cool trailer, and yeah, maybe it would have been great to experience those cutscenes, having never seen any part of it. But I think there's still a lot. I think there's gonna be a lot of really cool cinematic, those nice 3D cutscenes that they've got going for this game, which I absolutely love. I think there's gonna be a lot more of those, and we're gonna see a lot more. And it's in reality, it was only like a 2-minute trailer or something. So
yeah,
I guess when you think about it like that, they didn't. I mean,
keep in
I don't
mind
think they showed too much.
The bulk of that footage was different shots of the fight with the Chozo warrior.
Yeah,
which is an opening. It's a part of the opening sequence for Metroid Dread. So, really, they just showed us the beginning of the game, and then little shots of all the little things throughout.
Yeah.
I do sort of wonder, though, that the reason maybe why that they're showing off so much, assuming they are showing off so much, is because Metroid has not proven itself to be a strong selling franchise to the level that I think Nintendo wants it to be. So they're probably being more gung-ho about showing off content from this game because they're trying to establish that audience. They are trying to really push Metroid Dread. So they're not holding back here. Like if this was Breath of the Wild 2,
they want to show you what makes the game epic, and I think they really did that.
Yeah.
I think this trailer is a really good trailer. It's definitely up there with like some of the trailers we got for Breath of the Wild, and honestly, I think we need a trailer for Breath of the Wild 2 that has this kind of epicness to it, and this we need that still. We still haven't gotten that for Breath of the Wild 2.
It's very, very awesome. And it's just looking at the gameplay or just the footage overall, like going back to Kraid, like we got to see Kraid rendered in beautiful HD. Like actually,
it's gorgeous.
I wonder if I can share like shots here. What is it better to show screenshots, or if I go to the trailer? Yeah, I can
just
go
grab the trailer.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Maybe. It'll be fine. It's not gonna be fine. We're doomed. No. Oh, when I search Metroid Dread, my stream comes up pretty early on. That's pretty dope.
Nice.
The Metroid Dread trailer is almost about to hit 1 million views. Only been out for 2 days.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I got the trailer up on my... I'm going to share it with you guys in a moment. So it's just so we can kind of like, look through it together. Annotations off. All right, if I go to info, I think it'll pop it up. There we go. It is up. All right, so... But Brad, I don't know if you can see the stream, but...
I'm looking at the stream.
Oh, okay.
It just popped up for us.
So, like, it's just clean, dude. Let's go. Like...
The lighting is just insane. I feel like the textures and the metal on Samus' armor looks a lot cleaner than it did.
It looks awesome.
And the original trailer looks so nice. Because you could kind of see like a pixelated look to it and originally, and I don't think you can really see it anymore.
Yeah. We got a shot of the Chozo Warrior. This scene right here is really cool because what they do with, like, there's like the eerie music playing.
Yeah.
That was hype. And that move right there, the jumping back and forth, like, they've done so much to speed up Samus a lot. Like, there's just so much you can do now.
This That's shot epic. That you're paused on, I'm not sure if you're still paused on. Oh,
I did.
It's hard to...
I know. What part? Where do you want me to stop?
There was a part where there was it was in a cave and there was a light on top, and I was just commenting that the light pouring down into the cave. Yeah, that right there. I thought that just looked really nice, where the light just kind of pouring and the volumetric light on, and you can see like the light bouncing on the caves in the background, and I thought that just looked really nice.
It's a very good looking game, man. You can see like these lush environments.
And you can see in the
really
bottom
far back, but
more.
I'll stop here.
Oh yeah, I like the new. Show off the new biome. We can see like grass biome.
Yeah,
there it is.
Show it for
that. Looks
second.
Epic.
It looks really good. And then you just see the cave here. Oh, there's Craig. There he is. Look at that little guy. Isn't he adorable?
There he is.
Oh, and
love
Samus is just not flinching at all. Like, this is the stuff of dreams, man. Like, I always like wondered how
That
Kraid would
model
look with HD visuals, and he looks pretty intense.
It looks like it just really good. It doesn't even look like it's in game. I could almost believe that this was like a cinematic like pre-render, especially for a 2D game. Like if you showed me these cutscenes, like it looks like some kind of CGI promo you'd make for a game.
Metroid Dread's not really a 2D
so
game.
good.
I think Metroid Dread satisfies the terminology 2.5D. Because it's designed with 3D visuals, just with 2D gameplay for the most part. This is
for those 3D cutscenes. The way they do the cutscenes are great, and the camera angles they get are awesome.
I want to point out that Samus is charging her arm cannon here. I believe this is something you have the choice to do. So, like, I think because I think the cutscenes are dynamic for boss fights. And you can choose to charge your beam. Now, this could be a part of a cutscene where she shoots it, but I think I've seen some, like, from the treehouse, you have the option to charge your beam cannon. That was my impression. So just something to consider when we get our hands on the game.
I love this scene because it shows Samus's absolute confidence. She's just staring at it, not like in fear. There's absolutely no ounce of fear. Just looking out, pure confidence. Just
she's Kobeing. She's Kobeing.
Like she's
Kraid
just
right
about
now.
to destroy.
So
like it.
There's this famous moment.
It really feels like she has power here.
For Kobe Bryant, where he was like on the sideline, and a player, I forget who the player was, but they like took the ball and like shoved it in his face, like really quickly, and he didn't flinch. Like it was like, like not at all. Like it's that same energy here. Like Samus is just there's zero fear.
Kraid's just roaring, just vicious right in her face, and she's just standing there, confident, looking back, like I'm about to kick your ass. Like, it's great.
Yeah. And then this is just a beautiful shot of Samus in the water. Like, looks impressive. The environments here. Everything looks awesome. This is a very good looking game.
I love the lighting in this game.
Yeah.
The volumetrics and the way the light just pours around everywhere.
It's a very good looking game. That shot looks pretty. It does make me very curious for how a Prime 4 will look, because Dread doesn't have like a realistic art style. It's like a very, like, you know, there's not like a lot of crazy textures. A lot of it's like very
simple, it's very simple
textures and stuff.
It's very clean though.
Yeah, it's all super clean. Exactly, it's very pretty. I'm very curious how Prime 4 is gonna look.
There's a lot of objects littered about, and a lot of
more Kraid shots. And there's also this purple suit.
I think the textures are more simple that way, that they can pull off all these special effects and all these amazing cinematography camera angles and all these models, and there's a lot of geometry and just the environment. There's a lot of detail that way rather than just pure texture detail.
So I want to talk a little bit about going a little bit beyond you can still mention visuals, but I just want to talk about this concept here. Kraid is chained up. Like, this is not a free Kraid.
It's very odd.
Right? So it makes you wonder what's going on here, because Kraid is a space pirate. So the fact that Kraid is here implies there could be other space pirates. Now, maybe this isn't Kraid himself. Maybe this is like a clone of Kraid, potentially.
Right.
They've cloned Ridley before, so why can't they clone Kraid? But if you look at this Kraid, it doesn't look like a young, healthy Kraid. This looks like a Kraid that has been seen years of wear and tear. Like, this looks like a seasoned Kraid, right? So given that it looks like a seasoned Kraid, I'm less prone to thinking that it's a clone of Kraid, but actually Kraid himself. Now, you know, it still could be a clone. They still could do that. I just want to make this Kraid look, you know, like Kraid. But it's also possible that maybe they have this Kraid and they are testing on him and cloning him, taking him DNA potentially, right? So maybe there's like an even crazier, more powerful, genetically enhanced Kraid you fight later on. I mean, this is still a fairly early boss fight. And we can gauge that this boss fight's not that late, because we see that there's a purple suit that Samus gets even beyond the yellow suit. So this is definitely like at least like maybe around the middle of the game. So there could be a more powerful Kraid, but there's also a shot. If we continue on, there it is, right there. It looks. I heard some people argue that maybe this is like a face of Kraid. I don't know if it's a face of Kraid necessarily, but there clearly are some creatures that have been tested on or are being held in captivity, which kind of goes along with the thinking of Kraid here being held in captivity. Like there could be a lot of testing and things of that nature going on. I also think that there's probably some element of space pirates here, because if Kraid is in the game, then maybe there are others, right?
Right.
Ridley's a good bet, because Ridley's a good bet for every single Metroid game.
Yeah.
And I don't know what this is, because they said that there's like there's like robots that are clad in Chozo armor, but this is like organic looking. Like, wait for it. Like, if you see that, like, that does not look like a robot. That looks like some sort of like parasitic
I didn't think it was a robot.
So it makes me wonder. It looks organic, right?
Looks like Venom.
Yeah, looks like Venom. It makes me wonder if maybe this ties into the X-Parasite.
Yeah. At the very end of the trailer, if Samus does that thing with her eyes, and I was wondering if it was either like the X-Parasite or the Metroid DNA in her or something like that.
I think that has to be the solution to how Samus survives that attack, actually. This is the next shot right here. Because, wait for it. You see here she's holding out her hand. And from the previous trailer, if you remember, there was a shot of Samus's hand glowing red and kind of like crunching up a little bit. And she's holding out her hand here, right? Wait for it. She passes out. She's done. This is her either closing her eyes because she's about to die, or she chokes out because she's being choked.
Right.
And then her eyes flash and there's a red. So
yeah,
you could argue, it flashes red because she's getting blasted. But why would her eyes open up if she's getting, you know what I mean? Like, I think more likely there's something going on with her hand, which could be related to that red thing we saw before. Maybe, to your point, could be related to her Metroid DNA or her X-Parasite in her that could be reacting here. And I think it would be a valid explanation as to how Samus survives. Because this character is fighting Samus and
clearly winning.
Clearly winning, right? Wins. So what happens?
Yeah.
How does Samus survive? And I don't think the character dies here, because wait for it. Clearly this character is being featured wait for it. It's coming. They take their time. There it is. Like, this character is a big deal. Like, look at the title screen. So I think that it makes sense to think that there's something going on to repel this character. He has to retreat for some reason. I've seen some theories that maybe this character is not necessarily evil and they were just simply testing Samus. Potentially. But I feel like the direction they're going in here is evil Chozo. Especially when you look at like the hieroglyphics and the concept art from Samus Returns, where there was a militarized force, and this is what that seems to be sort of playing too.
I feel like people trying to test your strength don't choke you to death.
Yeah, but maybe they're trying to play the part. I think it's more likely that this Chozo is evil or an antagonist to Samus. I'm coming back to our faces. But it's I think there's something going on with Samus that repels the attack. Something.
I think so.
That's what happens, and then it leads to an ability amnesia, and there you go. Like she has to kind of restart her with her base level powers and grow again, as she does pretty much with every Metroid game. Usually other Metroid games, every Metroid game, they try to handle it in a different way. Like, sometimes, like, she has to get permission to use certain powers. Or she needs to get, like, download updates. Or sometimes she just gets wrecked and she loses, her suit malfunctions and she just has to obtain the powers again. This seems to suggest that I don't mean it's still hard to say what exactly happens. Like potentially the Chozo Warrior takes out her powers, right? Like steals them, as opposed to like it just her suit malfunctions. But I don't think it's a situation where she has to grant permission again. However, Adam is a part of this game, and there are some of those stations where she does get updates. Potentially, she could get updates to her map or powers there as well. The Federation did send her in again. The Federation may offer her some support, potentially, although there's some speculation that the Federation might not be trying to support her here. They might be trying to get rid of her. After
the Federation don't seem to super enjoy her, considering how they speak her in the trailer. And one of the trailers.
They what? I missed it.
One of the trailers, they are... I forget exactly what they say. But Samus is like, I think flying in her ship, and she gets a message, and it's like, "Don't mess up ours. You better get our stuff back," or something like that.
Oh yeah, it said. I think they said. Adam said, "Treat it with care." Yeah, the merchandise or something like that.
The way that they said it, it's like called her like girl, or I don't know. The way they said it, I thought seemed antagonistic.
Yeah. Looking at the chat here real quick, ASAP Real saying, I think 700 leaked the Metroid Dread trailer release date. The Metroid Dread report website said there would be a trailer on August 27th. So you would have to check the dates of when the previous report came out, but we knew a trailer was coming out August 27th for a while.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah. ASAP Rel said it was Matt Barnes. It was the guy who tried to shove the ball in Kobe's face. Thank you, ASAP Rel. I got a few more super chats from Taker 610. Thank you, Taker. Taker asked, did anyone say maybe first Metroid Prime 4 in Direct? I don't think we're seeing Metroid Prime 4 in this Direct. I think the focus is Dread.
No.
Potentially we see something at the Game Awards after the release of Dread, but really at this point, I think if anything, we see Prime Trilogy at the Game Awards or early next year.
I agree. We'd see Prime Trilogy if we're going to see something Metroid.
I do think potentially we do see a Prime 4 trailer next year, though. Yeah.
Maybe at E3.
Yeah. And it really just comes down to timing, because I know a while ago I was saying that we would for sure have some sort of footage for Prime 4 now, but it comes down to timing. Metroid Dread is the big Metroid focus of this year. Next year, I think they could start sort of hyping up Prime 4.
Potentially.
Nintendo Unite asks, have you tried that 2D Metroid Prime fan game? Yeah, Brandon and I played it together.
It got canceled.
Yeah, we made sure to play it months ago because we knew there was a chance that it would be taken down
the little bit
fairly
that they
quick.
Had
Yeah, it lasted longer than I thought it would, actually.
Yeah, it was like an hour.
And it was pretty darn cool. That 2D Metroid Prime
awesome.
game had a nice attention to detail. I wanted to see more of it. It was very fun.
I'm so upset that they're not going to be able to finish it.
And it was expected.
Yeah.
Q Turtle added me. Sorry for the confusion. Was saying Metopia proves they're willing to bring 3DS games to Switch, and it might not be hard to port Samus Returns because it might have the same engine as Dread. I see. I do not know exactly what's going on with the engines there. They would have to... I think... I personally don't like the idea of reworking Samus Returns too much. Because after a certain point, like... compared to Dread, it's just going to pale by comparison. Like, you would have to do a lot.
I'd rather just emulate it.
Yeah.
And just put it 1080p 60.
Some minor changes, right? Because with the screen and stuff. But yeah, like, kind of like maybe what they did with like Mario 64 or what they did with the 3D All-Stars collection. Like, it is technically remastered, but it's like a remaster, not a remake by any stretch. Just because I don't think you just don't want you don't want it to get in the way of Dread. Like, it just will pale by comparison to Dread, I think. I think they should just keep it like a simple remaster. They could still upscale to HD. They could still have cleaner textures. It's just, I just don't expect a lot of things to be remade. It's already a remake. So, but it could happen, just not this year. Taker 610 with another super chat. Seasoned crate with 11 herbs and spices. He's a big boy who's certainly gotten a lot of seasoning. Birdman with a side of mashed potatoes and a glass of wine. Nintendo Unite, don't forget the cheese curds. All right, you guys are making me hungry. Why?
James. Didn't eat before the podcast. What are you guys doing to me?
Yeah, and actually, the Accursed Hunter did the quote from Adam, who said, "Treat our lost assets with care, lady." That is it. That's what Adam says to Samus in her ship before she lands. That's to what you're saying. So, yeah, it's an interesting quote because this is following up Fusion, where Samus is sent in to help save the space research station, and Samus's solution to save everything was to send it to a planet to blow it all up. Blow up the planet and the space station. In an effort to get rid of the X-Parasite, which was going to doom the universe. So she did a good thing. But it created potentially some strife between Samus and the Federation, because that's not what they wanted her to do. So that's why there's some speculation that maybe the Federation has asked Samus to go here to ZDR in an effort to execute her accident, oh, there was an accident, she died, and that's why the Emmy are trying to take her out, because the Emmy are the assets that she's supposed to treat with care, but the Emmy are trying to take her out. So potentially the Federation has done this.
Isn't the story that they sent the Emmys first, and then the Emmys stopped responding, so that's why Samus is going?
That's the story. Yeah. And when she finds them, they're trying to kill her.
Yeah.
Could be a trap by the Federation, potentially. Although the way Fusion ends, the story is like saying someone will understand. They will get it. They will understand. So she has this hope that they will understand why she did what she did. And considering that Samus is willing to go on this mission for the Federation, there's a suggestion there that the relationship between them isn't that soured.
Yeah, it can't be completely destroyed.
Right, but at least maybe that's what they're presenting to Samus, and they're just trying to fool her because they're trying to get rid of her from what she did.
It's possible.
But also, Samus is clearly also an asset. Like, they need her, right? So it would be, I think it would be foolish of the Federation to do that. But also, maybe there's corruption within the Federation. Maybe that becomes a plot point as well, right? Maybe not the entire Federation is like that, but there are certain higher-ups that are. And that's addressed in Dread, potentially. Or it's just related to this Chozo Warrior stuff, where there's a lot of elements at hand here, because you have the Chozo Warrior, you also have good Chozo, presumably, because we've seen both in the different trailers. There is the X-Parasite, presumably our Samus is gone there. We have the Emmy, which have turned on Samus, which are from the Galactic Federation, which the potential there's some strife there, right? You have Samus.
I think it's the Chozo who turned the Emmy bad. I think because in the first trailer we see them messing with a lot of menus and different things and different electronics. I feel like that they turned the Emmy against anybody who comes.
That could be the case. They have advanced technology. They would have the capabilities to hack into something and change it, for sure. But just kind of going over the different parties, right? You have the Emmy, you have the Chozo, you have the good and evil Chozo, you have the X-Parasite, you have the Galactic Federation, and you have space pirates, because with the showing of Kraid, there's an implication of there being space pirates as well. So there's a lot of different parties involved here. And then obviously there's Samus, who supposedly is the final Metroid because she has Metroid DNA and the Metroid are extinct. Right. But given that it's Metroid Dread, I wouldn't be shocked if we find another Metroid somewhere. Yeah, or
the Chozo made more or something.
Maybe.
Or even if the Federation was somehow
they were experimenting secretly on Metroids in Fusion, and that also has led to some of the strife between Samus and the Federation, because they were doing it in secrecy and they did not want Samus to know. So it's interesting stuff there. There's a lot of elements at hand here, a lot of possibilities. I do like your point, though. I do think the simplest solution or answer to what's going on is that the Chozo Warrior people are the ones that have hacked the Emmy, and that's what's going on. But what if it's a What if it's both? What if everyone's just trying to take out Samus? What if the Galactic Federation contacted the Chozo? Because what's interesting is that if you read the Dread report,
crazy stuff can come down. I mean, this is the end.
Yeah, maybe. But the Chozo in the Dread report, the Galactic Federation, it says the Galactic Federation had information saying that there are Chozo warriors. So, what if the Galactic Federation has always known that Chozo were actually still alive? They didn't tell Samus. Chozo raised Samus, which adds another little wrinkle there. What if the Federation's been in contact with the Chozo warriors, and what if they're in cahoots here to take out Samus? Like, what if that's the whole plot of this story? You know,
Dang.
That'd be nuts. So all of a sudden, the X-Parasites are trying to kill Samus. Chozos are trying to kill Samus. The Galactic Federation's trying to kill Samus. Who's on Samus' side?
Space Pirates trying to kill Samus.
Of course. Why? That would be really funny. The Space Pirates are actually on Samus' side in this case. They're like they change sides here because maybe they're team neutral, you know. And all of a sudden, like we assume the Space Pirates are evil. Maybe the Space Pirates aren't evil. Maybe the Space Pirates are like, hey, we just don't believe in the Galactic Federation. We're just trying to stop their nonsense. We're rebels, you know.
It could be a whole Halo situation where the Covenant, part of the Covenant, is actually with you. What
if? Now Ridley's always been sort of shown, like the Space Pirates have always been shown to be ruthless. So it's hard to say that would be a really big sort of twist. But I mean, it could be a gray area though, where, you know, maybe they aren't great, but they also, you know, the enemy of your enemy is your friend in this case. So potentially, like there's a lot of angles they could go with this, right? And then there's a whole dread element, like what's going on there. Like maybe there is a dread. Maybe the dread element isn't just like a fear, but also like a dread of Samus kind of knows. Right, like Samus knows what she did with the Galactic Federation, but because of who she is, she still agreed to go to Planet ZDR. And when she sees the Chozo warriors and she sees what's going on there, she has this hope that maybe the Chozo are on her side because they raised her, but there's the dread of they're not. The Galactic Federation, even though she's worked with them for so many years, they're not her friend. And it's just kind of like the dread of not just the fear of what could of like the things after you, but also the things that you trusted not actually being trusted. There's a dread there. So there could be huge, you know, like there can be some really cool dread theming here. The story could be potentially pretty deep, which is very cool. I'm always down for that. So I'm just excited for this game. I'm excited for this game. They're doing so much with it. I think lore-wise, they're hitting it out of the park. Visually, they're hitting it out of the park. Yeah.
This trailer was a great showcase for what they can do, the potential of what they can do with that engine and with those cutscenes, and just how epic even a 2D Metroid game can be.
Yeah. I'm seeing Lewis said, you're missing one big thing here. There's also another living Chozo that was shown in the very first trailer who could be on Samus' side for sure. I mean, I wouldn't say I missed it because we brought it up earlier.
We talked about it.
But I mean, that is another element. Like, it doesn't necessarily only evil Chozo. But continue on, Brandon.
No, I'm done.
Okay. Looking at the chat here, Brian Balusek, don't know if you all talked about this yet, but the gold Chozo, when Samus melees it splits up like Venom. You think it's an X-Parasite Chozo replica? We did kind of talk about that a little bit, but I'm glad you brought that up, because we kind of just went away from it. I think that it's very Venom looking. It's exactly, you took the words right out of Brandon's mouth. The X-Parasite is potentially there. You know, that's a whole other element, right? So again, there's the X-Parasite. There is the Space Pirates, there is the Chozo, good and evil. There is a Galactic Federation who also brought in the Emmy. There's Metroids maybe not here, but I mean, there's potentially still Metroids as well. So like, there's so many different elements here. It's crazy stuff. How it all ties together is also interesting because the Chozo created the Metroid to combat against the X-Parasite. So if there are X-Parasites here consuming these Chozo, I don't know if they're robots or warriors, what have you, because the Dread report says that there are robots clad in Chozo armor. So
Right.
it could be that the X-Parasite can take over not just organic things, but robotic things as well, which could also have implications for the Emmy. But maybe, there's... I don't know. Like, I want to say that it's all...
I'm not sure yet.
There could just be multiple factions here, right? Like, maybe the Chozo aren't necessarily just targeting Samus. Maybe they're trying to do it with the X-Parasite. So you have the X-Parasite doing one thing, you have the Chozo doing another, Samus is in here. Like, maybe there's just different factions that have their
Just
own
a complex
agendas.
web.
Right, like, it's not necessarily the Galactic Federation is working with the Chozo, right? And the Chozo's not working with Samus. And, well, there's two different Chozo sides, right? And then there's the X-Parasite. So there's just a lot of different potential angles here. So it's hard to pin down what exactly is going on. But it does seem to be a sign for the X-Parasite, though. Because the way the initial Dread reports suggested, they said there was a report of X-Parasites, but there was no confirmation of it. That Chozo warrior looks very Venom-like. Like, the closest thing we could think of that would make it look like that would be the X-Parasite, right?
Yeah, probably.
So that could be... It's not confirmation, but it certainly offers more support to the idea that the X-Parasite is apparent, is somewhere on planet ZDR. Like, it wasn't a false report. Because... And if it isn't a false report, that does add validity that maybe the Galactic Federation isn't trying to betray Samus. But maybe it's still a plot point, though. Maybe Samus has a fear that they will. You know, maybe there's a big element of Samus doesn't know who to trust because she's fighting the Chozo warrior, Chozo who she thought she could trust, right? So there could be a lot of different elements here. And maybe the Federation knew, so there is still some issues between Samus and the Federation that do need to be hashed out, but it isn't so much the Federation's trying to take out Samus, but it could still be a plot point where she's not sure. So there's just a lot of really interesting elements here. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot of gray.
Yeah.
It could lead to a lot of dread, which I think will be ideal.
It's going to be great. I think there's still a lot more plot points and things for us to figure out, and it's going to be exciting when we get our hands on the game and see exactly what's going down.
Yeah, this is some exciting stuff. Where are we at now? So we've been going... I think definitely we're at a time where we can move on. If you guys have more questions about the Direct or Metroid Dread, by all means, put it out there. But I think we should talk a little bit more about No More Heroes 3, because it's cool. So No More Heroes 3. I only did the first chapter, but I gotta tell you, there's just a certain like class and sense of taste this game has. Like there's an appreciation for like gaming culture and like movie culture in this. Like, I'm not saying that this is exactly like a Quentin Tarantino film but for a video game, but I get a little bit of those vibes. I get a little bit of Pulp Fiction-y kind of vibes. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly the same way or like Kill Bill, but there is a little bit of that element, because Quentin Tarantino and like Pulp Fiction and like Kill Bill and these other movies, like, they are very brutal. They're very bloody. No More Heroes is very bloody. It's unapologetic about that. And it's also can be very gruesome and dark and explicit, and there's a lot of mature themes. So there's certainly a correlation there. But also, there's like with a lot of Quentin Tarantino films, they can tell things out of order. Like, the way they tell you the story isn't traditional. And that's also what I'm getting from No More Heroes. The way they're telling the story is not traditional. I haven't spoiled anything yet, right? So you guys have a moment if you don't want to be spoiled. But the beginning of the game, now is when maybe I'll touch on soft spoilers here. They open up with I don't want to say too much, but they open up with a sort of like video game, like a fictional video game. And then you're like, oh, it's a fictional video game to start off, like an old, like, spritey one, right? Like a 16-bit one. And then you think it's a game you play because you have to press a button to start, but then it becomes a monologue as the game's going on, sort of talking about this fictional history of this game with Travis Touchdown's voice. And then you don't think you're playing it because it's a monologue, but then at a certain point you do play it and you do something. And then that jumps to a whole other stylistic cutscene that we saw at the Game Awards a couple years ago, where we announced No More Heroes 3, but that initially they called it Goddamn Superhero instead, with like the anime sort of like thing where it's that alien creature was like, Damon, I love you. Like, it's so different. It's so different. At first you think it's like a story of like this boy who finds an alien, they work like a very E.T. kind of thing, but with like an anime sort of style. But then it turns out that alien comes back 20 years later, and it seemed all cute and nice, but actually is a freaking villain who wants to just kill everyone and is super dark and evil, but still likes Damon. And he comes back, and Damon seems to have a hand in like the No More Heroes like sort of assassins ranking organization. I'm not an expert for No More Heroes stories, so keep that in mind. But like, so there's that whole like background which we saw, and there's so many different like cuts and beats and story things going on that changes a lot. And then it sort of actually I see what Birdman said, like the whole introduction to Fu, which is the main bad guy, and Damon is like kind of like an old Disney film. Good point. And then there's a big alien attack, and then eventually you get to Travis in his home. But the thing about Travis is like, he doesn't look like Travis. Like, he has like something around his neck, he looks older, his hair is down, like he doesn't really look like Travis. Like, there's very subtle signs. And the game that he talked about in the opening monologue is on his television. And then his cat's there, is kind of fat. And there's a big alien attack, and Travis comes down, and he's like, whoa, this is like from The Empire Strikes Back. Like, there's a lot of like references to nerd culture, like Star Wars and things like that all throughout. And then all of a sudden, different like characters from the previous No More Heroes games just come out of the apartment. They apparently all live in the same apartment complex, which makes no sense. But they're all like there. One of them supposedly dead or something. And then the cat comes, and then he transforms into this super like anime robot thing to fly into one of the things. And then his cat's with him, who's apparently his navigator. And his cat is like this fat little cat who has not talked ever in the previous No More Heroes games. All of a sudden, talks to him, and Travis is like, I thought you were a girl, and Travis is like, what? I ain't no chick, or like something like that. And he has like a big like thick like masculine voice. It's super funny. It's super funny. The voice acting's incredible. And there's just all these different like changes and cutscenes and different styles all poured together, and there's different things like they show a lot of like retro bitty like different like in between screens that tell you different elements of the story. There's just so much different elements of different cultures thrown in together, mixed in, and it could sound overwhelming on paper, but at least with the first chapter, it just sort of transitions, and then when you finish, there's like they make it out to be almost like an episode in a story too, because usually with pilots, the first episode in a show, the first episode usually doesn't start with the intro. It ends with it. They did that for that, and then there's the big sort of cutscene that tells like an in between for the different chapters, and the next chapter starts, and it's like a little sort of like intro with like credits and stuff. Very stylish, and it was super cool. So like I'm actually really into the storytelling here for No More Heroes. I think Suda51, at least for the beginning, has hit it out of the park. Like, they did a great job.
It's surprising to me because I didn't think that the game was going to be bad, but I thought it was going to be very mediocre. And because the game doesn't look polished from the outside, like the graphics, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be brutally honest here.
Have you seen the latest footage?
I have. A lot of the graphics are just terrible. Like, actually bad. I think it's not just the quality of it. Sometimes I just think the art direction I don't like. Like, I think it's just bad. I think it's more the city areas are
so
worse.
You could argue
the exotic areas that look a lot better.
The game isn't inherently a mixed bag.
Just looks really bad.
Yeah, the game is inherently a mixed bag because it uses different it uses different art styles in different places at different times, and it can seem a little random. but like the base sort of like engine for like the actual main part of the gameplay, during the fights, I think it looks great actually. Now I didn't get to the open part of the game yet because I just did the first chapter. Haven't had time. Been working ever since I've worked every day since and I'm not talking about YouTube work, I'm talking about my other job.
Yeah.
So I haven't really had that much time. So I just got around to playing it right before the podcast. So I haven't gotten to the open world part, and I have heard that part doesn't run really well. So you know, there is that to consider.
Doesn't look really good either.
But the fighting parts I thought were great. Now I'm not saying that like the visuals, like the polygon counts and things, are just out of this world good or anything like that. But like there's a lot of like
I don't
colors
like the way
and
it's shaded.
particles and things.
I don't like the lighting system or the way that the game is shaded in general. I just think it doesn't really look that much better than the Wii games, like the first two, in my opinion. I think it's trying to copy that look, but it ends up looking very from that era. And
I see
really
what you're saying, and I'll tell you that the first couple trailers for No More Heroes I thought looked pretty rough. Like I think I remember we talked about it.
It looks a lot better than that. Like the resolution of that.
It's a lot better. Yeah. The game doesn't look like a low. It doesn't look like a low resolution game anymore.
No, the resolution is a lot better now.
But the fights are great. The fights are great because a lot of things that happen visually there to freshen up, spice it up. But in terms of gameplay, I gotta tell you, I think No More Heroes 3 is way better than the previous ones. At least in No More Heroes 1, it felt very repetitive. Like every time you would kill an enemy, like they would do the same exact high-pitched scream. It would be kind of annoying. I would hate kind of playing it sometimes because of that.
I like having different sound effects and different animations, really.
This one feels far less repetitive. There's a lot more layers to the gameplay now. It feels very smooth. There's a lot of color and things popping up on screen. So like it actually is appealing visually, the fights and stuff. Like so, and that's the main part of the game. Now, again, I'm not saying it's like this incredible technical showcase, but aesthetically speaking, I actually think it's rather pleasing once you see everything coming together during the fights. And but you're in the middle of a fight, the high-paced, high frame rate fight. So, you know, it's usually pretty smooth, at least like from what I've done in the beginning of the game, the first chapter. It holds up pretty well. Yeah. And there's variety. There's a few different things I did. I think that's something that they've seemed to have done really well this time around. There's a lot of polish to the combat, and it holds up. Now I could argue the camera's a little awkward. You can lock on, so it's fine. But it's I'm really feeling this one, and the musical choices. Like I stopped by the sushi shop, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm really digging this beat here." Like there's some really nice stuff, and I gotta tell you, just the charm of this game is kind of like a big selling point here. Like the comedy, the humor behind it is awesome. Like Travis runs into Sylvia again, and the first thing he asks is like, "Oh, how are the kids?" And then she doesn't even respond to him. Like you're like, "Oh, do they have kids together?" You're not even sure. Like, but there's like she doesn't show any like inherent like interested in Travis, but there's like a couple of subtle signs here, and they're like, "Oh, well, maybe." So it's funny. And I already mentioned the cat. Like this is one scene with the cat that I just love. I don't want to spoil it because it's just funny, but the cat is great. The cat is awesome. Yeah, the cat is really awesome. He is a nice companion character to Travis, a nice comedic relief. And the Samus has some friends. Like he's not a lone guy anymore. But there's some cool elements here. And I mean, they still rock with the bathroom stuff. Like I love how they sort of introduce certain mechanics. Like Travis, like, oh man, I gotta go. I got gas. Like right before the boss fight, and he's like, oh look, there's a bathroom here. Oh, thank God they have a bathroom inside this UFO spaceship, which makes no sense. But there's a restroom there, and Travis is like, hey, like before he jumps, he's like, hey, make sure that you always go to the bathroom before anything. It's the best way to save your game progress, or some diddly squat like that, and then you see him take off his pants and take a dump. They cover his privates with toilet paper, but it's funny. There's just a lot of personality there. Have you seen some of the screenshots of like some of the clothes that I was gonna Samus that Travis can wear? Like there's that fuck racism hoodie.
Yeah, I've seen
I really want to
racism
get that
hoodie,
one. Like
yeah.
I think that's great.
I've seen that.
I think that's
awesome.
great. Yeah. That's one of those things where like I love that hoodie because one, it's a cool, obviously, yeah, racism's bad. But it's interesting because it's anti-racism. So, which is a good thing. That's a good thing. But when you put it on a black hoodie with the big red letters and it's like, fuck racism. It's like a very,
very visceral.
Yeah. So it's kind of like yin and yang there. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the game has like a lot of sort of flavor to it. It's coarse, it's rough. It's not afraid to kind of be explicit. But at the same time, like Travis is a good guy, kind of like it's a gray area because he does still kill people and oftentimes mercilessly, but not bad people. Not good people. He doesn't kill good people. He kills bad people.
Not good people,
but
not bad people.
Oh no, he would never harm a bad person. Good people takes them out.
I would
no
never
problem.
harm a murderer. What? Only innocent people.
Yeah. To Birdman's point, Travis breaks the fourth wall a lot. I love the fourth wall breaking, which again kind of brings me back to kind of like the whole Quentin Tarantino thing. Like there's a lot of moments sort of you question like the reality of the game. Yeah. And that's just super cool.
I like what I see of the game. It interests me. The only issue I really have with it is that I think that the graphics aren't always great. But other than that, it seems like it's shaping up to be a really good game. I mean, it's getting 8s and 9s, and the lowest I saw was like a 6, and it was only from like one person. Most of it's like 8, 9, or 10. Yeah. So it's been getting good reviews.
So, to put it simply, No More Heroes 3 has so far for me is a lot better than I was expecting, and I'm happy about that. Like they did great. They did honestly pretty great. And again, I'm only on the first chapter, so I know I've heard the open world parts are a little rough. We'll see. We'll see about that. At least for me personally. But checking the chat here. Adam Zuck, it's okay if you're a few minutes behind. I think I found your comment. Man, much of Samus' story is untold, so I feel like this game has a huge opportunity to set up a story for future games, 6 and beyond, for her history with the Chozo. So, Dread is supposed to be sort of like a finale, but that doesn't mean it won't be future Metroid games. It would just be like a new thread. New plot thread there. What that means exactly, I don't know. What if there's a different bounty hunter? What if this is the end of Samus and then Metroid has a different main character? Like that would.
That's what the developer specifically, the director said. Like we would question what he means by it being the end of the plot. This specific plot point for Samus. We'll question what that means and. Yeah, I'm really excited to figure out what exactly that even really means.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Metroid's in the name. Like, that's the name of the series.
So it's got to be centered around Metroid, probably. Or it's not longer centered around Metroid, and it's centered around Samus. So there's, could go 2 different directions, probably.
They changed the entire series name to just Samus. It's like, no more Metroid. It's just not a thing anymore. Just Samus now.
It'd be a nice experiment.
It'd be hilarious. They just like, we're done with Metroid.
Yeah. I see Birdman here is telling me you have to be a certain boss to get that special hoodie. I will keep that in mind. Kid Kyle 67 saying the game took him around 13 hours to beat it. That's not a bad amount for No More Heroes.
That's good.
Yeah.
It seems like a good amount for that game.
Yeah.
Not every game needs to be super long, guys.
Birdman saying that GameSpot gave No More Heroes 3 a 4 out of 10 and then Suda mentioned them on Twitter. I love how Suda51 is so involved on social media right now. That is interesting. GameSpot, yeah. I in my head when you were talking about reviews, like I'm sure GameSpot gave them a shit review, but it's I haven't played through the whole game, so I can't give my overall thoughts of what kind of score I think it deserves. But I'll tell you the beginning part, as I mentioned earlier, if the game maintains pace from what I've seen, I feel like the game is certainly deserving of some award nominations at the end of the year. Q Turtle. What if we get a fully powered Samus with the Dread suit with an updated moveset in Smash instead of the Chozo General, and she's called Metroid now? That would be kind of weird.
Yeah, that'd be strange.
Also, people would be like, why is there another Samus added as DLC? Like, imagine, like, if they added, like, another... Like, what if... Now, I'll tell you. Like, if the Direct opens up with a trailer and it's Fierce Deity Link being added to Smash Ultimate, I'd be hyped. But I'd also be like, why would you add another Link? And I feel like that would be the closest equivalent to what you're suggesting. No, the cool thing about Fierce Deity Link is there's like a history there.
Link, like, color set.
Yeah, so, yeah. I don't think that's likely. I don't think it's likely that it would be Samus. I think, best case scenario, it's a character from Dread. Either a Chozo Warrior or an Emmy.
Best case scenario, if you want the skin, is that they just add an extra
all skin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the big bird would be really cool. Very cool stuff. Just looking through the chat here. Bourbon had some things to say about the visuals. The effects are good, but the buildings and the areas are low poly. But the indoor parts of the game look really good, 60 frames per second and a clear image. Yeah, but the sushi music though, right? That sushi music is hype. It is super hype. Let's see here.
Again, I think it's just the way that the game's lit and the way they shade it. I just don't like it. It just looks like the Wii games, and I was hoping for something that looked a lot better.
I think it does look a lot better, but at the same time, it's, you know, there are games that look better on Switch. I still think it's great. Calvin Chev bought No More Heroes 3 on day one, and I'm loving every second of it so far. The story, gameplay, combat definitely makes me want to play the older games. Yeah, I think No More Heroes 3 is probably going to go down as the best in the series, though. That's how it feels to me, and part of that could just be because it's newer. But I think the game feels like the core element of the gameplay seems far more polished, in my opinion. They at least started off really, really strong. So that's how I feel about it so far. But I feel like we're pretty much towards the end of the discussion here. If you guys have any final points or questions you want to bring up in the chat, by all means, put them out there. I'll try to get to them before we close out. But Brandon, is there anything that you want to discuss, be it No More Heroes 3, or questions you have for me about the game, or anything about Metroid or Direct you want to bring up before we close out?
Not really, no. I guess something I didn't get to talk about last week is I don't really need to talk about it again. I just was kind of interested. There was a lot of, rumors and things about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And I'm just interested to see if that will actually come out before their new IP, considering I thought that they were actually working on that at around the same time or before than they would have been working on Xenoblade 3. So I'm just curious.
I think, yeah, I mean, I'm with you there, but based off the rumors, the suggestions, Xenoblade 3 is around the corner. If they both projects started around 2017, then they could be on a, not too far off from each other, but maybe they prioritize Xenoblade Chronicles 3 because right now there's momentum for the series, and they want to get that out there while there's still some momentum for the series. There's been a bit of a build-up between, Xenoblade 2, first, obviously Xenoblade 2, but then Torna, then Definitive Edition with Future Connected, and then the Smash DLC. and then the big trailer for that and all, like all of that's been kind of like a momentum builder, right? So then to cap it off with Xenoblade 3, I think one of my little things fell, but for Xenoblade 3, like, you know, the timing might work out really well for that. And also because they probably already have an established idea and formula for the Xenoblade games, it might be easier for them to get that done quicker, even if they start a little bit later.
Right, and we don't know what they're planning exactly for this new IP. It could be a big MMO, and they gotta figure that out. It could be a huge, seamless open world as big as like Xenoblade Chronicles X, or we don't know what it is. So
it could take another year or two. Yeah. So Xenoblade X took a while, like to your point, right? So yeah, development's fluid. You know, just because one project starts first doesn't mean it's going to end after the other one. There's other elements involved. So we'll see though, right? Like we're saying that based off rumors. We don't know.
Right. We don't know for sure.
Yeah, but
it does seem like it's really about time for Monolith Soft to show off a new project.
Yeah. I also I buy into what Imran Khan knows, and also Samus Hunter said similar things, so it's kind of like one of those two is probably right, maybe. It makes sense. It's not that far-fetched to think that Xenoblade 3 is around the corner. So, I buy it. I mean, it's kind of like when you look at the Smash stuff, that trailer, I really did feel like they were hyping something up for Xenoblade. So I do think
it did, for sure.
Yeah, I think that that was probably Nintendo subtly teasing the next Xenoblade game.
I would take it, man, and I'd be happy.
Yeah, for sure. But we'll see. Maybe a direct is announced this week. I'm thinking the week after. We shall see. But guys, make sure to check out Brandon's channel. It's linked in the description below. Leave a like on the stream. Share it. If you have any other questions, you can leave them in the comments later, or feel free to hit me up on Discord or Twitter or Instagram or whatever. That's all for now. Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.